It's a standing start today. And we'll have the block up towards the front of the mat, just so it's ready. So shake out the legs a little bit. And move into a mountain pose, which traditionally would be taken with the feet together, palms forwards. But first thing in the morning, sometimes their balance neural pathways aren't quite there. So you want to take the feet a little wider, whatever feels more comfortable. And let the shoulders roll back a little bit. And then we're going to think about the pelvis. So one of the things that affects back strain is the positioning of the pelvis. If your bottom is tilting out towards the back, your pelvis tilts up and the front of your pelvis is just tilting the opposite way. So you're getting a sort of compression in the lower back. But quite often what happens is these hip flexors here start to tighten up and they pull in this direction, and that pulls the tailbone down and the pelvis starts to sort of roll back a little bit. So neither of those are great positions for the spine to be in. So having the feet a little wider allows us to focus a little bit more on where we want to place the pelvis. So if we've got tight hamstrings, tight shins, quads, etc., calf muscles, even tight feet, it can all affect where your pelvis sits. So just trying to be tall isn't really the main part of this. We want to press the feet down. We try to avoid pressing the knees back because that affects the pelvis position quite radically. So it's a downward press. The thigh muscles will lift a little bit, feet spread wide. We try to be as straight as we can. Now, quite often, that actually requires a little bit of an abdominal squeeze as well, downwards. So just drawing the belly button in a little bit. Quite often, standing up straight will feel like you're leaning back quite excessively. But if you're able to look at yourself in a mirror, you go, actually, that was straight. What I normally do is lean forwards into my toes. So we'll take the arms now out to the side and just bring the hands above the shoulders and then ease them back down on an exhale. Whilst we're doing that, we're going to try to keep our focus on the pelvis. Keep those legs pressing down. Really focusing on the straightness of our body. So having got the hang of taking the arms above the head and keeping the body in a straight line, we're then going to take the arms up towards the sky and we take it into a little bit of a back bend. Now, quite a lot of people take back bend by thrusting their pelvis forwards. And we don't want to do that. We want to keep our pelvis exactly where it is. And then we're going to lengthen up through the arms and draw the chest up towards the sky and into the tiniest of back bends. The head turns from looking directly forwards to more the crease between the wall and the ceiling. And keep the belly drawn in. And this is about lengthening the spine up out of the pelvis. If we're able to do that, we get space in the spine. Relax the shoulders a little bit. It's not a big back bend. Nothing like we've seen in some of the Instagram photos. with our hypermobile friends who seem to bend their spines to about 90 degrees. This is just a few degrees, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5. And then we'll come back. Use the hands down. Simple as that. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Slowly extend forwards, trying to take the weight into the toes, drawing the belly in, and bringing the hands down to the floor. First forward fold. We'll bring the hands onto the shins and lift up halfway. Fold down to the floor, coming back up. Folding down. And one more time. Drawing the belly in. Now we're stepping back into down dog. So taking whichever leg you prefer, back into a nice step, and then lifting the hips high, pressing the heels towards the back of the mat, and making sure the hands are flat to the floor. Start to open the shoulders a little bit. This first down dog of the day is more of a free-spirited affair. So we're able to wriggle around a little bit in the shoulders. We can pedal the feet. We can float into a plank and then down dog. We could do scissors, whatever we feel like, or we could just be in down dog and try and let the muscles stretch out a little bit. So it depends on how you feel, how you slept, what you've been doing a few days before. Again, just easing into the pose, finding space gradually. We don't have to get there straight away. Kind of let it build and develop a little bit. And then eventually we'll come into a plank. Bring the knees down completely underneath the hips, about hip distance apart, and we'll move that into cat-cows. So start to get a little stretch through the spine, tailbone up to the sky, roll the shoulders back. And then a very gentle exhale, drawing the belly in, pressing the hands and shins into the floor, head drops. Inhaling through again, just seeing how the body feels. So sometimes we can be very stiff in the neck and the shoulders, sometimes it's in the middle of the back, and sometimes it's in the lower back. First thing in the morning could be all three. But you're looking at the movement patterns. Is it smooth or is it a bit sort of gnarly and tricky? A little sticky sometimes. We're just easing into that. Now I'm going to move into child's pose. If you still need to continue with cat-cow to warm the spine up, that's fine, right? You'll be sitting down for a little while, about 30 seconds or so. We ease onto the heels and we're going to walk the hands forwards enough to let the body sink down. Again, we're getting a stretch into the glutes and the hips and into the lower back muscles. I want to keep the elbows off the ground, but it's not an excessively big stretch forwards, and more of a relaxed, wide shoulder position. And the belly drawn in again. And those little micro movements to help, rather than being in a sort of static position. Gives the muscles a chance to wriggle and find some space. And we'll lift back up onto all fours, bring the knees back underneath, and we're taking down dog. Now this time we're going to take down dog, but we're going to take it into a scissor option. So once you settle, we'll slowly lift that right leg up towards the sky. Try to turn the shoulders as little as possible, but we will open up the hip. And to emphasize the pose a little bit, come up onto the tippy toes. The back leg is straight, we point out through the toes, and then we'll bring the foot down gently We'll take it up onto the other side. Now, this is a big stretch and a lot of load bearing through the hip joint. And we'll bring that leg down to the ground as well. So that's our introduction to opening the hips out. We'll come back into a plank. Let the knees come back underneath. Nice neutral position. We'll tuck the toes of the right foot underneath and slide that leg out towards the back of the mat. And take the left hand forwards, palm facing in, and then slowly draw the right leg away from the ground to about the height of the hip. If you're able to, flex the foot, toes down, press down through the shin. Try to avoid letting the belly drop down to the floor. You want to kind of lift the abdominals up a little bit. And that sort of particular cue is bordering into the micro adjustments, but they are important just to activate the core nicely. Bring hands down to the floor, knees to the floor, and no surprises. We go to the other side. The leg lengthens out. We lengthen the arm out. Slide our balance. Lift the foot gently away from the floor. So things that can go wrong behind us, if I can put it that way, legs spinning out to the side or crossing over the center line excessively. You want to think about trying to keep the positioning of the hand and the foot the same distance apart that they started at when they were on the ground. And we get that little micro adjustment in the belly, drawing it up. That's probably the trickiest part of the pose. Just getting that connection to work, firing up for us. And then we can bring the hands and the knees back down to the floor. And take a little breath, swing the feet out to the side, and then round to the front of the mat. Use the hands to roll down to the floor, feet in close to your bottom. And we'll draw the right knee in towards the chest. We can take the hands around the shin, start to draw and guide that out towards the armpit as we lengthen out through the left leg. Looking for a little internal rotation in that left thigh, turning into the center line. So the toes point towards the sky or slightly to the center. Again, things to look out for in the feeling sense. Did my leg go down the center line or did it go out to the corner? Again, we want to sort of maintain that hip distance apart approach. Drawing the belly in a little bit, bending the tailbone towards the bottom of the mat away from us. So that will help draw the belly in naturally for us. I'll release the leg from there. So right foot comes to the floor again, left leg draws in. And we'll take it to the second side. So left leg comes in, hands around the shin, and as we ease to the armpit, we lengthen the right leg out. Those few breaths are really about just opening the hips out. You can then sense the connecting to that inner thigh to turn it in. And then we're going to lengthen the tailbone away, and you will feel a little bit of difference. Trying to send both sitting bones evenly away from the head, get the longest distance possible. And we'll release from there. We'll bring feet together on the center line, close into the bottom. And we'll take the right leg up to the sky and lengthen that up above the hip, turn the toes out, bend the knee. We're going to come into a 4, So the ankle bone goes to the outside of the thigh. We let the right knee travel forwards whilst the foot stays flexed. And then we come up onto the tippy toe on the left. Use the left leg to draw the knees closer in towards the body. You feel that down the back of the hamstring, out sort of on the side of the hip a little more. And early days, where we might be able to take the hands around the shin later in the day, we might be looking for the back of the thigh in this version this morning. So finding that in my hips and hamstrings and lower back muscles, though they don't appear to be tight, they actually are, because normally in the evenings I'm very easily able to put my hands through and take hold of the shin. So there's an inch or two difference in positioning there. And then release from there as well. We'll take the right leg up to the sky and give a little press up towards the ceiling with a flexed foot. Now I want you to press the heel up and the hip down at the same time. And we'll feel all muscles in the leg really turn themselves on. I can release and bring that foot to the floor. We'll do the same on the opposite side. So the left leg lifts, toes turn out, ankle comes into place, the knee travels forwards, the foot stays flexed. When we feel ready, we come up onto the tiptoes and we use the strength of the leg to draw in. We just pull that, just using the leg muscles, see where it's going to get to, and then we take one hand through the center, one hand around the outside, interlace the hands, still using a little bit of leg strength to help the knee come in, but we can use a little bit of arms as well. See if your shoulders have tightened up around your ears. If they have, try to relax the shoulder blades down, even though you're using your arms a little bit to help secure the leg in towards the body. Okay, and release from there. Take that left leg high, flex, press, and draw down. And you're going to feel the abdominal muscles and the oblique muscles and a bit into the lower back muscles working as well as you press this leg towards the sky. Okay, we'll shake that out, bringing the foot back down to the floor. Going to roll on to whichever side you like to leave from to come back up to sitting. I take it to the right. It's technically the healthier way to move. I'm going to cross the ankles over, bring myself up onto all fours, untuck toes, ease myself into a almost down dog. I'm going to walk the feet forwards into the forward fold. Bring hands onto the hips with the feet parallel, soft knees and a flat back to lift. Inhale up, hands towards the sky and towards the heart, coming into our sun salutation territory, modified as it is, coming forward fold. We'll step back with the right leg into the lunge. Check the front knee is over the ankle, strong back leg, chest lifts a little bit, belly draws in. And then we step it back into our down dog. We'll float forwards into plank. Now we're going to come down to the floor, so you can bring the knees to the ground if you wish, or just bend the elbows back. As you exhale down to the floor, and untucking the toes will lift into low cobras. So very little weight in the hands. There's 4 more to come. Pressing the thighs down and legs away. And last one. Slide the hands down to the bottom of the ribs, roll the shoulders back, press into the floor, up onto all fours, take a little breath, and then ease into down dog. From here, we'll draw that right knee forwards and foot through between the hands into the lunge again. Take a little breath. I'll step forwards into the forward fold, hands onto the hips, and a gentle lift. Step up to the front of the mat again. Inhale high, hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor, drawing the belly in. Turn left leg back into the lunge. Really working in that back leg, getting used to pressing out. That's going to be our friend when we come into half moon. We'll step back into our down dog. Float into plank. Ease down to the floor again. Your choice needs to come to the ground if you wish, but elbows stay nice and tight in towards the body. Inhale up. Cobra 1 through to 5. One. And to the bottom of the ribs. Heel away from the floor. All fours to down dog. Left knee draws in, foot through for the lunge. And then press into our forward fold. Hands come onto the hips and we lift up again. We step into the front of the mat. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhaling down to the floor. We'll take the right foot back into lunge. Lower the back knee. And tuck the toes. Bring the hands forwards and up. Draw the belly in, tailbone down. We lift up slowly. Take the arms out wide. You can clench the fists. Squeeze the elbows back a little bit. Get a little more into the chest opening, shoulder squeezing action. And then release the hands, bring them down to the floor. Tap a toe on the back foot. Step into the forward fold. Again, bring the hands onto the hips and do the same again. Inhaling up. Hands into the heart. Slow and long. Weight into the toes. Holding in. Left leg back. Come forwards. Fists, elbows, squeezing the shoulders, lifting the chest a little, belly in. Release the hands, soften the shoulders, hands come to the floor. Toes on the back. In to our forward fold. And we lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. All right, we'll soften the knees over the toes. Take the weight into the left leg and slide the right foot back into high lunge. We'll drop the heel in gently to the floor to open to the side for warrior 2. Allow ourselves to extend out over that front thigh into side angle. So the forearm comes down, top arm lifts. We'll take that hand forwards and then rotate the body down towards the floor. back into a lunge. So lifting the back heel. We'll step into a plank. Roll the feet to the right for side plank. Left hand lifts. Hand comes down to the floor. Back into our plank. To the opposite side. Down to the floor. Move into a down dog and walk the hands towards the feet for forward fold. Bring the hands onto the hips again and lift ourselves up. Shake it all out. And move back into the front of the mat. Hands high. Remember the ribs are down, pelvis position, all the way through these. Hands into the heart, forwards. Down to the floor. One more time onto the hips. Lengthen to lift up. This time we'll move into that chair pose. So inhale high. Hands into the heart, soften the knees. We'll take the weight into the right foot, slide the left foot back into our high crescent. The body lifts a little. We drop the heel down. We're looking for a heel to heel alignment as we turn the body and lengthen open, keeping the groins open wide. Extend out into our side angle. Forearm comes down to palm lifts. Turn the palm forwards and extend out. Get a breath here to reach out through the fingertips and pressing the back foot down so it's nice and long down the side of the body. Rotate the hands down towards the floor. Lift the back heel. Back into our plank. We'll take it over to the left. Side plank on the right. Hand lifting. And comes to the floor. Cross over. Floor. Into our down dog. Hands in gently. Go to the hips and lift ourselves up. Shake it all out again as we come up into the front of the mat. Now we're going to move the block. We're going to take it more center line, side down, if that makes sense, so sort of landscape-ish. And we'll move that around and refine that a little bit more as we come into it. So we'll take a breath in, inhale high, hands into the heart. Allow ourselves to exhale down to the floor, glass is falling off. And we'll take the right foot back into lunge, drop the heel in, and hands alongside the body or onto the front thigh to lift up into our warrior two, your choice. As you arrive, we'll extend out of that front thigh. Forearm comes in again. Come into our extended side angle. Lengthen through the body. Rotate the chest down towards the floor. Hands come in, the back foot spins up, heel towards the sky. And we're going to take a little breath. And we'll just take the block over to the right side. So left foot is forward, right hand is forwards. We're going to press off the back toes to lift up. Take a little breath. See how that feels. Keep the fingertips on the floor. Make sure you're happy with how your hips feel. Foot flexes, goes down towards the floor. So we're on the fingertips of the left hand, out to the side a little bit. I'm going to take the right hand away from the block, bring it onto the hip. I'm going to slowly turn the right hip up towards the sky and therefore the toes out to the long side of the mat. And once that feels stable, I'll take the right hand towards the sky. And you can keep the eyes looking on the floor, it's much easier for balance. If you want to challenge your balance more, you can take the eyes to the side, keep the belly drawn in a little bit. Now we'll carefully bring the hand back onto the hip. Start to turn the hips down towards the floor. Bring the fingers down to the ground, soften the front knee, and bring the foot gently to the floor into our forward fold. We'll move the block back again into the center, hands onto the hips, soft knees and a flat back to lift up. We'll see if we can take that to the second side. So inhale high, hands through the heart. Exhaling down to the floor. Again, just shifting the weight into the toes a little bit. Taking the left back for warrior two, dropping the heel in. Again, your choice on the lift. Once you arrive, extend out. Inhale, take the hand high forwards. Exhale, stretch out through the side body. Then rotate down to the floor on the next breath. Allow yourself to move the brick out to the left, so right foot forwards. Right hand comes forwards as well. And press off the toes to get the lift on the fingertips on the right hand. Again, we start to rotate the left hip up towards the sky. That turns the toe out to the side. We still want the leg down the center line. You can adjust, get a little bit more feeling where you need to have the fingertips on the floor. And then bring your hand away from the block slowly towards the hip. So you start to turn the chest a little more as well. Everything goes a little sideways in a good way. And then we'll see if we can take that left hand up towards the sky. Keep the foot flexed, it's raised. You're still pressing out through the heel. And again, we'll bring the hand down onto the hip. Slowly turn the hip down to the floor, fingertips to the ground. Soften the front knee, bring the foot in. Hands come onto the hips, and we lift up. Now we'll slowly shake that out and walk into the kind of middle area of the mat. Bring the feet together for tree pose. We're not going to spend a great deal of time here. Find that drifting point, hands in towards the heart. We'll load into right leg. Got hiccups. Bring the heel onto the ankle and let the toes turn out to the side. Still got hiccups. This is not good for tree pose. And then we'll see if we can slide the foot onto the shin and the calf. And if that feels okay, we'll take the foot right up into the top of the groin. Now, ideally, the hips, knee, and toes of the standing leg are all pointing in the same direction. The knee points out to the side on the bent leg. And then we'll release from there. Bring the feet together. Hands into the heart again. Shift the weight gently into the opposite leg. So that right heel comes up. The toes turn out. Slide the foot onto the shin calf. See how it feels. Determine whether we're going to stay here or whether we're going to take that a little higher. Again, ideally we keep the toes and the heels away from the knee joint completely. So that's why we use the hands to bring the foot right up into the top of the groin. You'll also find it easier to take the knee out to the side. And then we can release. So we've worked up our balance cells as well. Shake out the legs a little bit. Take the hands towards the sky, the front of the mat, hands into the heart. Exhaling forwards, last time to the floor. And move the block down towards the side of the mat. Allow yourself to step back into the tabletop. Spin on the knees out to the side. Knees our way back down. We'll kind of come into the Dandasana. So the block will come underneath the bottom in a second. We'll start with the legs flatter to the floor. And then hands out to the side, flexing the feet back. Ideally, the big toe, little toe, same distance from us. If they're traveling forwards, it's an internal rotation in the thighs that brings the feet back in rather than trying to turn the feet. So relatively relaxed. We can spread the toes out, point them up towards the ceiling. Draw the belly in, press the sitting bones down, crown of the head rises, and some nice soft loose shoulders. And then a release from there. Little bend in the knees, lift onto the block. And I bring the right heel into the groin for Janu Shirshasana. So knee to the side, hips square, little bend in the knee, toes point towards the sky, hands onto the shin. Going to lift up, press the heel into the groin, lengthen the chest forwards, and then lift the chest up a little more to bring it even further forwards. At the time you do that, there's very little weight in the hands, but we do want to press the heel into the floor just a little as well. There's a little bit of downward pressure in this knee into the floor, the heel pressing into the groin, that foot is flexed. We'll draw the left hip back a little bit, so there's a little bit of a twist, and that kind of brings the shoulders more square to the leg. Quite often when we come into Janu Shirshasana, we kind of twist a little bit, so one rib is higher than the other. So that little turn there gets these two guys to be more even in relationship to the front leg. Take a last breath there and lift ourselves up. Take the leg out. Come into the opposite side, square hips, knees down. Bend in the knee, toes towards the sky, hands onto the shins. Get space. Forwards, find your point. Then I'll lift up a little more to get more height, feel the spine lengthen out. Start to work this right hip back a little. This will open out the back of your leg for you. And it gives you a sense of drawing the belly in as well, sense of purpose into that. And we'll release from there as well. Now we're going to take the feet together, so Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet come together, little toe into the floor. The feet comfortable distance away because we're going to take this into a forward fold version. So we wriggle a little bit on the sitting bones, let those knees descend. Hands onto the shin again. We start to work on getting some length in the spine, so maybe rocking around a little bit on the sitting bones. Hinge from the hips forwards, drawing the belly in. Allow yourself to take the hands wherever it feels comfortable and natural. We want to avoid using the arms and hands to pressing the legs down. As you press the toes down, or little toe into the floor, that'll help draw the knees out wide. release from there. Fingers to the floor to lift back up. You use the hands to draw the legs in. I'm move down onto the ground now, so I'm going to move my block back a little bit further. Knees retain high lift and use the hands chin in towards chest to roll the spine down to the floor. Head safely on the block. I'll draw the knees in towards the body, take them out wide, toes together. We're coming into happy baby. So hands slide on the inside of the thighs down the shins, wrap around little toe area. Feet move towards the sky, knees into the armpits. Nice long neck, relax the shoulders. Again, you might want to wriggle a little bit from side to side in the pose to settle. Trying to draw the tailbone down to the floor. Could, if you wish to, take the fingers and hook around big toes and lengthen the legs out into the wide leg version of this. This morning, that doesn't feel like the right thing to do in my legs and my back, so I'm going to stay here in the happy version. The option is definitely there if you wish. Let's get about 4 more breaths here. Okay, and release the feet gently to the floor. Keep the legs in nice and close to the body. And we'll take the arms out wide. We'll take a simple little twist over to the right and to the left. Lift the knees high. And exhale. And roll on to the other side on the next exhale. And lift. And come into a nice short Shavasana. So heels to the corner edges, hands out wide. Side of the body, palms face up. Nice long neck, wriggle the shoulders out, wriggle the legs out, wriggle the fingers out, and then release. We begin to wriggle the toes, fingers. Let the wrists and the ankles join in. Taking a few deeper breaths. Lead into a stretch. And then when you're ready, we'll just slide the heels in along the floor back in. Draw ourselves into the easiest of hugs. Roll carefully onto our right side as we breathe in. And on the exhale, use the hands to guide ourselves smoothly back up to sitting. Bending into a seated posture of choice. And tall, hands into heart. Closing the eyes as we breathe in. Letting the chin bow. So we begin to slowly exhale, letting the belly draw in and graciously bowing to the floor. Sealing our practice. Inhale the breath to build the spine, lift the head, open the eyes. Namaste. Beautiful start to another day. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on the mat again soon.